For the remaining lectures in this course, we will be focusing on the specific sections of the research proposal and what is required and expected from you in each. This is based on the research proposal template that is made available to you and that you can use to prepare the research proposal. In this lecture, we are looking at the Introduction to the Research Proposal. This is the most important section of the research proposal, and the ultimate dissertation or thesis also, so you will have to revisit it regularly. Many master's candidates want to know why we devote so much time, an entire course, to the research proposal, and not give lectures for the preparation of the actual dissertation. The reason is that the research proposal becomes a significant portion of the final mini-dissertation. If you do a good job on the research proposal, you can have a quarter of your mini-dissertation done by the time you start to work on it. To illustrate, the research proposal introduction becomes the first chapter of the dissertation or thesis. The literature review will become the foundation for the literature review chapter. Fortunately, in the age of technology, you can simply copy and paste pieces of text into separate chapters. The research method section of the research proposal will become the foundation for your research method chapter. If you have a really good research proposal, all that remains to be done is to expand the literature review, refine the introduction and research method, do the analyses, and write up the results. It has been mentioned but is worth mentioning again. There are distinct differences between real-life problems and research problems. Real-life problems are rarely solved through research, but rather through human intervention. A research problem addresses a knowledge gap that we need to understand better. A research problem cannot be solved by human action in everyday life. The examples in the table give you an idea of the differences between real-life and research problems. Pay specific attention to the underlined verbs used in each statement. Postgraduate research aims to answer intellectual questions rather than solve real-life problems. Even though the introduction is the most important part of any piece of academic writing, the title is what any reader sees first and creates a first impression of your work. Keep the title short and to the point, stating exactly what you plan to do. Many of us are familiar with novels and other works of fiction and the enticing captions we see in newspaper or magazine articles. However, in academic writing, there should be no mystery. At first, it seems counterintuitive as you may want to captivate your reader, but this is unfortunately not appropriate in academic text. Clarity and brevity are essential. Apart from the items mentioned in the list, it is also best to leave out superfluous phrases such as an investigation into or an exploration of, as these phrases do not add any descriptive value. Look at the titles of a selection of dissertations or theses that have been completed in the department where you want to do your master's degree. These are the subheadings of an introduction and will be the same for the first introductory chapter of your dissertation or thesis. Each of these headings is discussed separately in this lecture. The background section of the introduction provides context and sets the scene for your research problem. The first statement or sentence must grab the attention of the reader to entice them to want to read more. It must not be too technical and can be a controversial statement, surprising statistic, interesting quote, etc. Thereafter will follow a broad and relatively brief overview of the importance of your study. This is broad and not the specific problem you are investigating. References are appropriate here, especially if the statements you make are not your own or need some substantiation. The background section also includes a broad overview of the most relevant literature in the research area, identifying what knowledge is available and what gaps exist. The next sections of the introduction address the major elements of academic research, namely the research problem, then the purpose of the research, and the research objectives. Anyone evaluating your research will consider the research problem very closely. This is the part of the research proposal that ought to take the most of your time and the most intensive consideration and discussion with your preliminary supervisor. Without a research problem, there cannot be any research project. The research problem is a statement of fact that convinces the reader of the necessity of your research, answering the important questions, so what? And why must this research be conducted? It must clearly state what the problem is, why it is a problem, and what research has been done to attempt to find a solution to the problem. Again, as with the title and background section, is it important not to be vague? The research proposal is not a murder mystery, but a piece of academic writing. The reader should never have to guess what direction the work is taking. Students often struggle with the purpose statement, thinking it is the same as the problem statement. Where the problem statement sets out the gap that the study attempts to address and the problem it aims to solve, the purpose statement guides the direction of the study, therefore giving the reader an idea of the approach that will be taken to solve the research problem. The purpose is described in a single statement that will generally start with something like, "This study will," with some information about the problem to be addressed and how it will be accomplished in broad terms. The research objectives, which are discussed a bit later, give the reader a step-by-step insight as to what objectives the study aims to reach. Different research texts show different takes or preferences concerning research questions, research objectives, and research hypotheses. In this course, these are not considered as the same, and thus not used interchangeably. Research questions are not compulsory in a research project. The goal of research questions is to break the problem and purpose statement down into separate, digestible questions that the study aims to answer. However, this can be replaced directly with the research objectives, which will be discussed next. Research questions are also preferred instead of hypotheses in qualitative research, a concept that will be discussed in more detail in a later lecture. Now, you may wonder where hypotheses fit in. Hypotheses are statements that a researcher wants to prove or disprove through the research. Hypotheses are mostly applicable to quantitative research, but because it need to be supported by relevant research, they will be discussed as part of the lecture that discusses the literature review. The research objectives must relate directly to the problem and purpose statements. It sets out the specific activities you will conduct to solve the research problem and achieve the purpose of the study. Remember that you need to ultimately address each research objective that you specify in the introduction. This is, apart from the problem statement and the availability of data, the one other thing the committee evaluating your research proposal will zoom in on. They will want to see that your objectives are feasible, attainable, and can be achieved in a reasonable period. Later, in your dissertation or thesis, the objectives are as important as in the research proposal, as the reviewer of your work will want to see in the empirical research that you addressed all the objectives you set for the study. Note that the literature review is not stated as a research objective unless you conduct a specific analysis of all the available literature as part of answering the research question. If your study will only include a general literature review to elucidate what research has been conducted in the research area, it is a natural part of the research process and does not have to be specified as a separate research objective. You will remember that you need to state the academic and practical value of your study in the background section. However, the background should not be too lengthy. In this section, you can elaborate on why your study is important and what the benefits of the results will pose to academia and society. This relates to the contribution you make with your research and answers again the question of why anyone should be interested in your work. As part of the delimitations and assumptions, you first have to give a brief overview of the units of analysis applicable to your study. The units of analysis refer to the entities you intend to use for the analyses, e.g., a certain population group, a group of organizations, and so on. Delimitations are the self-imposed boundaries you put on your study based on the context of your research, the units of analysis, the theoretical foundation, or the relationships to be investigated. For example, you may specify that you will only study a certain group of people according to a demographic profile, or a certain sector of companies on the JSE. If you define this clearly with sound reasons, you can avoid significant criticism. Note the difference between delimitations and limitations. Delimitations are the restrictions you put on your study by yourself as a conscious decision. Limitations are those limits that arise through the nature of your research or perhaps shortcomings in your data that you come across later. Limitations arise as you conduct the study and are only discussed in the final chapter of your dissertation or thesis, and not in the research proposal. Limitations are those aspects that give rise to future research ideas that will address the limitations and expand the body of knowledge. Assumptions refer to all those things you decide to accept as true and that you can reasonably expect your readers to also accept. These are mostly related to theory, the specific research paradigm, the data you will use, or the method you intend to apply. The proposed chapter layout is a useful planning tool. If you are perhaps leaving out an important section or topic relevant to your research, your preliminary supervisor or a postgraduate committee member may pick it up and guide you to include all important aspects. The purpose of the summary at the end of a section or chapter is simply to guide the reader as to what was discussed and what is to come. It is a good way to ensure flow in your document and see that the reader does not get lost in your work. Apart from the definitions provided in the first part of the document, you still need to provide definitions of important terms in the text where you first use them. You can then copy and paste them to this section with a reference and a cross-reference to where it is used in the text. The same applies to abbreviations. Where you use an abbreviation the first time, you need to write out the term in full before providing the abbreviation in brackets and also copying and pasting it to this section. Note that you need to provide the full written-out term for any abbreviation the first time you use it in every main section of a research proposal and every chapter of a dissertation or thesis. Also, do not use an abbreviation if you do not intend to use it regularly, at least more than 5 times throughout the document. You do not need to provide detailed descriptions of key terms every time you first use it in a chapter, unless you think it may be necessary to provide clarity for the reader.